Scroll through your social media feeds lately, and it's hard to ignore the surge of new arrivals appearing across pop culture. An unusual number of public figures are simultaneously bringing home newborns. Sophia Richie recently announced her family's expansion, welcoming a second baby with Elliot Grange. The trend crosses industry lines, too. Masters champion Scottie Scheffler celebrated the birth of his second son right before tournament season. Pop stars are part of the same wave, with singers like Carly Rae Jepsen confirming the arrival of her first child. Look closely at the public rollout of these announcements, and a strict pattern emerges. The photos are carefully lit, the captions focus on gratitude, and the entire experience is presented as a state of pure joy. Because this public narrative is so heavily curated, it leaves almost no room to discuss the actual psychological reality taking place off camera. Behind the hospital portraits and coordinating outfits lies a complex emotional collision that every new parent eventually has to face. 3 months ago, dancer Hayley Erbert and her husband, Derek Huff, joined this list when they welcomed their daughter, Everley. But instead of sticking to the standard script of effortless bliss, Erbert shared an update that caught people off guard. She admitted to experiencing a deep sense of pain right alongside her happiness. Her exact words described a heart constantly bursting open, while also breaking into a million pieces. Erbert is describing a specific psychological collision. It raises a question about the nature of this transition. Why does the process of bringing life forward so often trigger such a visceral sense of loss? Erbert calls this the dichotomy of motherhood. It is the distinct sensation of occupying two contradictory emotional spaces at the exact same time. This diagram shows the positive side of that dichotomy. On the right, there is forward momentum. A child's life is a sequence of milestones, first smiles, first steps, pulling parents forward with excitement. But pulling backward in a directly opposing direction is the psychological urge to freeze time and prevent any of those milestones from becoming lasts. These forces don't take turns. They lock together, creating a daily reality where joy and heartache are simultaneously true. Psychologists categorize the result of this daily tension as microgrief. It happens because every time you celebrate a child growing into a new stage, you are forced to quietly mourn the version of them that existed just moments prior. When a baby outgrows a onesie or stops needing to be rocked to sleep, that specific iteration of the child is gone. Processing that transition requires thousands of tiny, invisible acts of mourning. Parenthood does not exist in a state of static bliss. It is a cycle of fiercely holding on while being forced to let go. Because a mother carries this internal contradiction every day, the surrounding family unit has to absorb the impact. Derek Huff stepped into this role by actively countering the grief at home. Instead of just providing public validation, he makes it a point to verbally remind his wife daily that she is built to handle this adjustment. Addressing the tension directly rather than ignoring it allows the couple to manage the emotional weight of the transition together. This leaves us with a practical question. How does a person survive a state where their heart is continuously bursting and breaking? Erbert found her answer in surrender. She decided that if this dichotomy is the baseline of motherhood, her only option is to meet it with open arms. Instead of trying to achieve the impossible task of freezing time, she shifts her focus to soaking in the fleeting details of the present moment. Look back at the rest of this year's celebrity boom, from Kat Graham to the many others, and you can apply this psychological framework to their public announcements. Real parenthood is defined by this contradiction. Once you see the quiet heartbreak stitched directly into the joy, it changes how you look at every perfect birth announcement from here on out.